Welcome to Fairy Tale Access, where the head fairy's quest is to prove that fairy tales do exist in actual time rather than once upon a time. Together, we will unravel the heroes, young and old, who turn dreams into reality. These are the people who still believe in happily ever after. The discoveries will bend even our most cynical non-believers into believing in fairy tales. Hi, welcome to Fairy Tale Access. Today, I am excited to introduce you to Nikki Nelson-Hicks with The Accidental Detective. His name is Jake Ishtenheji. And like a lot of the characters in the book, I may have mispronounced it, but thank you for joining us. How are you?
Doing great, and you did a great job with that name. It's a hard name. You did great, Ishtenheji. Yeah.
So tell me where this name came up with for our lead character.
Back in 1998, my family and I lived in Budapest, Hungary, and my kids went to a school on Ishtenheji Út. And my husband and I had a running joke for the longest time. Isn't that a great name? Be a great name for a PI, Jake Ishtenheji, PI. Anyway, then fast forward to 2004-ish, 5-ish. I met a guy at a convention, and he was doing a anthology, and he asked me if I would write for it, and I was like, "Yes, Brian, I think I finally found a place for Jake Ishtenheji," and that's how I got started in this one little anthology that never happened. I wrote the story for the anthology, but it never came to pass. That happens a lot, and that's where Jake got started, because even though the publisher didn't do the anthology, he decided he liked the story so much, he asked me if I would write a series, and I was like, okay, and that's how Jake Ishtenheji, the Accidental Detective, got started. It was just by a weird coincidence that my kids went to a school on a street that had a really cool name in Budapest, and just this weird challenge to write a pulp story that involves chickens.
Yeah, that was so
I know, that's so that's how I got the idea. Yeah.
Where do they come up with these things? Like a pulp story that includes chickens?
Actually, it was a drunken night at a convention, and they were talking about how somebody, back in the 20s and 30s, they actually used to make these little sunglasses for chickens that were tinted pink and red so that the chickens won't eat each other.
Oh, really?
And again, yeah, they do. It's true. Google it up. It's true. But again, that gets started conversations because, again, it's a drunken night at a convention. And someone said, you know what, that'd be a great idea for an anthology, a pulp anthology. It's called Poultry Pulp is what it's going to be called. And the idea was you had to write a pulp story that somehow involves chickens. And so that's what I did. I wrote a chick, a dick, and a witch walk into a barn. That was the very first Jake Ishtenheji story.
That was so cute. It was so well done. And I love the way that you explain what's real, what's not. For instance, so for the first book, how does that, it fits in with like the legends of the area, the Mama Effie is like a typical character that you would see in Louisiana, very,
very strong,
very direct.
Takes nothing. Yes, that's what I want. I want a very strong woman who takes no crap. And she does, as the series goes on. She is really the backbone, even though she gives Jake a lot of gruff. She really does. She puts that poor boy through some stuff, but she really is a really strong supporting character. Yeah, I love her. I love Mama Effie. I do. I love her a lot.
Yeah, and you did it in such a great way where she's very hardly ever there, but you know her, and you're not going to forget her just because of the deliveries and the quips. It was really good.
She's the queen. She is the queen. She is always there, and though you don't see her, because she knows all that's going around. Information is her bread and butter, and that's what she does. She's a great character.
No, I felt so bad for Bear, though. He was such a great character. I mean, he's still kind of there. But
there. I didn't expect this to be a series. So when I wrote that first story, spoilers, I killed off Bear. When I was asked to write it as a series, I'm like, well, man, I really wish I hadn't killed off Bear now. But I found a way to weave him back, and he's a very, very important. Volume 2 of the series just dropped a few days ago, and he's a very, very important character in all of the 6 of these particular stories.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah.
Does Mama Effie ever figure out what happened to him or what changed about him?
Spoilers?
No,
Of
not
course. Mama
spoiler.
Effie. No,
But
of course. Mama Effie always finds out. She always knows what's going on because that's her job, is to know. She's the Merlin of the group. She knows what everything's going on, and yeah, she doesn't take any gruff from anyone. So yes, and if you're in her house, like she's not going to know what's going on in her house. So yes, she does. She eventually finds out that he's not exactly he's dead, but she doesn't know what happened. And at least I'd ever say it in the book. I don't know, but yeah, I didn't really matter to the story if she knew what happened with Henrietta Harlow.
what about the second book in this?
Oh, Golems, Goons, and Cold Stone Bitches. That's one of my very favorite stories. I love that story.
It was really good. And I love the pirate angle.
Oh, that's the Boo Daddy story. The Boo Daddy story has the pirate angle.
Okay, so wait. Go back to
Golems, Goons, and Cold Stone.
Yeah.
And Cold Stone Bitches. I love that story mainly because when I was asked to make it a series, I had no idea what to do. Not a clue. So I just went upstairs to my room and pulled out some journals and just started and I had this one scene, a scene of a woman, and she's bloodied outside of his office. And she just says to him, "Do you have it? Do you have it?" And he's like, "I don't know what you're talking about. Oh my gosh. Am I too late?" And then she's, "Am I too early?" And then she dies. I'm like, I don't know where that scene came from. That's one of the magical things about writing. I have no idea. So I used that scene. I just kind of rolled with it, and I created the Lombardi sisters, and of course the Deal with the Salt of Life, and this whole just kind of grew and it blossomed. I love that story because it's a really great arc and a really great circle. To me, stories are always a circle, and that's a great story. I love Giovanna in that story. She becomes a very, very important player in the last three stories. So
what did you take from a real life legend or tale that you added to that story?
Golems? Golems, basically. I used golems, although I twisted it for what I needed it to be. Also, I took the alchemy. The order hasn't come in yet in that story. But yes, I did a lot of research into alchemy, how, and the Italians, basically alchemists and pharmacists, they were poisoners. That was their job. If you were a person of power, you had an alchemist on hand to poison your enemies, or to also give your family medicines, also for abortions, all the things. But they knew all the things that was happening in that world. So I created this alchemist who was trying to create a salt of life. He was trying to create an elixir to give you mortality. So I researched that, did a little bit of that, and then also, of course, golems. I pulled that from Jewish mythology, but gave it a bit more of a twist.
Yeah, you definitely gave it a twist. Especially in a Chicken, a witch walked into a barn. Yeah, that was so twisted. I was like,
yes, chickens. It's kind of become my my trademark now is zombie chickens. It's kind of a joke with me. A lot of my friends is zombie chickens. Whenever I'm at a con or whatever, and I sell those books, I always draw. I have a little drawing of a zombie chicken that I do. And it's become like a joke. It's become like my trademark.
Well, see, before I got to that part, I was like, oh, she's so sweet. Like, this is so, like, with the hat. And it was like one of those black and white movies, and the dime store books that were referenced were actually how I thought this was playing out to read. And then I was like, slam. Whoa.
Yeah.
What is she doing?
She's not.
She's evil. I love her. Oh my God.
Oh,
but I mean, it was like heartwarming, and then it had like that twist. Like it had that old nostalgia that like
which is what I'm going for,
and like kind of romanced you into it. And then you hit us with like the pulp. And I was like, that's just sick. Like sick in a good way.
She even gets more evil as the stories go on. She is not a good person. She's not a good person at all.
Do they ever get rid of her? No.
Spoilers? I can't tell you.
Okay, I'm sorry.
She comes back. She's back throughout, especially in Volume 2. She's quite a thing in Volume 2. So, Yeah. Can't tell you
Yeah.
exactly,
Well,
but
she
yeah,
did surprise me in the next one. Boo Daddys Boggs and a Dead
oh,
Man's Booty.
yes, she pops up again. That woman, you cannot get rid of her. So, and with Pearl and her son and the pirates. The pirates was fun. I did a lot of research in pirates and Boo Daddies. Boo Daddies is actually a thing. It's a South Carolina legend, but I kind of twisted it for my own story. Because Boo Daddies are more like a boogeyman, but I wanted to be a protective talisman, which is what I used it for my story. And the Boo Daddy is he's cool. If there's now a Honey Island monster, so
I don't know. Poor Jake, though. He seems like he's such a good kid.
I torture him so very much, and I really, but again, he's a pulp character, and pulp characters never really win. Whenever he thinks he does win, he doesn't win, and that's pulp. That's noir. Your character, your hero, can never really win because I torture him a lot, and trust me, throughout the entire 6 stories, I torture him a lot. But in the 6th story, the last story, he does get a little bit, but he still has to go and find other things for the 7th book, which will be out whenever I write it. But yes, I do a torture book, but that's just part of pulp. Pulp heroes are never, ever, truly, ever given their due.
How long has Pulp been around?
Since the 1930s, 20s and 30s, back when, because it's called Pulp because the magazines they were written on were made of the cheapest paper around. And you got to remember, they were written fast. Boom, 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 boom. They were put out like in a week. There's no editing. There's no worrying about, this make any sense? And Pulp did a lot of science fiction and horror, not only just detective stuff. Because like in the stories I have with Black Mask, the Black Mask magazine that Bear is so fond of, that's an actual magazine. And so I did a lot of research into that and what was in it and things, how they look like. But yes, Pulp's been around since the 20s and 30s, back when people would buy very cheap literature. It was considered, very lowbrow literature.
It definitely seemed like that at the very beginning, which really drew me into the story. And I'm like, oh, this will be like one of those old-fashioned books, that my dad had in like the boxes or something.
Yeah, it's all action adventure. The Jake Ishinheji stuff is just boom, 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 action adventure. I torture Jake a lot and put him in all kinds of situations, but he didn't ask for it. God love him. He did not ask for any of it, which is why he's the accidental detective. He never wanted any of this, but guess what, man? You're down this rabbit hole now.
Yeah, he didn't want the house either.
He didn't want to be there. He just, but he's a fun character. He's young. He's only 25, so I get to play with him, and it's a lot of fun. But I'm not a very good god. I am not. I'm very mean to my little guy. And so, yeah.
But it makes the story entertaining. I mean, it was so cute because it was so twisted. And you're right. They read really fast. And
they are very fast.
Yeah. But it was just like thrilling
and
fun.
Yeah, I write to entertain. That's what I'm always telling people. I don't write to change anybody's religion or philosophy. I write to entertain. My stories are there to divert you and distract you and give you something to do while you're in a waiting room. So, and that's what I go for. I go for just straight, fast entertainment.
So is this the first novel in a series or the first novel you've ever written?
Oh, no. That's just, I've got several. I've got a Sherlock Holmes book. I've got some science fiction, some steampunk, some weird Western. I love my weird Western story. That was a lot of fun to write. And I also have a really good, like I'm right here. Oh, Rumble is action adventure. It's got monsters and mercenaries set in the Gobi Desert. It's a lot of fun. I really like that. Was a lot of fun to write. I like to write stories that I enjoy and have a good time with. Again, I'm writing to entertain. So yeah, I write a lot of different genres. I don't just stick to one.
So what age group do you think could read this? Like from the youngest? Because obviously anybody up to like 90 is going to love it. Or 100 even.
The youngest, I would go at least 14, 15, nothing like, because there's just a little bit of sex. There's not really sex, but there's some sexual innuendos put through in there. Right. And yes, and there is a lot of gore. especially in Boo Daddy. A lot of, well, the first one too. Remember when poor bears on the, yeah. So I would say at least 13, 12, 13, you got to start there, around 12 and on up. Because when I go to cons and I sell them, because the covers are so shiny and colorful, people will ask, are these for kids? And I'll have to say, oh, no, no, they're not. So, but yes, at least preteen or at least teen and on up.
Okay, so more like high school rather than middle school.
Unless that's a really rough middle school. Yeah, I just no. No, no. I would feel very icky about giving it to like a 11 or 12-year-old.
Okay.
No.
Well, I just wanted to know what the lines were.
Yeah.
Tell me more about locations that you picked and why you stuck them near swamps.
In New Orleans?
Yeah, and scary voodoo.
Oh, well, because New Orleans. Well, because the very first one deals with voodoo, so I thought, okay, New Orleans is so atmospheric, and again, there's so much to work with down there, and the history of New Orleans is just steeped in blood and superstition and all kinds of wonderful things. Also, so many different kinds of peoples have come into New Orleans. I mean, I used like I was in Boo Daddy's, I got to go into the Irish Channel and deal with the Irish people who moved to New Orleans. It's fascinating because it is a port town, so therefore you've got a lot of interaction, and it's just a very vibrant city. So I decided I'm going to use New Orleans. When I went down to New Orleans for a convention, I actually got to go to check out so I could find the places that I had listed in the book, and yeah, no, they don't exist. I made them up, except for like, for instance, the Lafitte bar. Mm-hmm. That was actually made by Jean-Paul Lafitte, the pirate. That's actually there. It's the oldest, basically pub in America because it was made by a pirate. Honey Island, that was actually made by a pirate. So I did a lot of research in that. But more, it was just because it's such an atmospheric. Oh, there's so much you can play with in New Orleans.
Right, if you don't get heat stroke in the summer.
Oh gosh,
it's really hot and sticky.
I went there in October, and it wasn't too bad, but man, the smell on Bourbon Street is still bad. Oh God, I was like, if it stinks this bad in October, what must it smell like in the summer? It's just, no, thank you, no, thank you. We went and I was at a convention in October. I can't imagine. Oh gosh.
No, the hotness there is not dry like the desert. It's really humid. Like it just sticks to you.
Oh, I'm in Tennessee, so we have really deep, humid summers.
Really?
But not like down there. Oh, yes. Oh, yeah. But not like down there because they got swamps. We don't have swamps here. But it gets very hot and very humid, just like when you walk outside, it's like walking into just a wall of water. And you're like, how am I supposed to breathe this? I got to be amphibian to breathe here. But down in New Orleans, no, we're nothing that bad. That's way down south. Tennessee doesn't get that bad.
Well, you did a really good job of tying in those little details just to make it more real and more like those 1930s, 40s, those kind of books. It was just, It was fun. I was just like, it was like the sweet break in your day.
That's what I'm going for, is to give people a sweet break, a sweet, fun, adventurous, little bit kind of ew break. But yeah, that's what I'm trying to
there
go
was
for.
A couple of ews in there.
Trust me, so many ews. But it's what it was. It's what happened. There's some violence in it. But yeah.
So what do you do in your free time? I want to see how this ties together.
Free time? Who has free time?
I know, the way you write.
I don't have a lot of free time, quite frankly. I mean, I have my day job, and that pays my bills and gives me my insurance. I got that. I have a family that I take care of. I've got my house. But other than basically reading and trying to keep up on your reading, isn't that just so hard? It's my biggest thing is keeping up on reading, trying to keep up on the trends, what's popular in stories and stuff. And of course, all my friends who are writers, keeping up with what they're doing and make sure I read it and comment. And my husband and I are trying to start a podcast. We're working on doing a podcast soon. So we're working on that. I don't have a lot of like just sitting and staring at a wall. I can't do that anymore. My ADHD brain won't let me do it. I just can't do it. I've got to do something.
What do you do during the day?
During the day, like a weekday, I have my day job, which like on this side of I just work. I work for the Tennessee Department of Transportation. I work in the legal division. I work with their contracts and stuff. It's just an admin job. Just an admin job. I just do that.
But that
so I have that
some
like
of
on
the
this
characters. I can imagine you meet some interesting folks going through there.
Sometimes, mainly it's contracts, and contracts are rather dull. But mainly, I just keep the contract. I'm just a cog. I just keep the contracts moving, and I help the lawyers make sure they get what they need to do. I'm just an admin. Although admin's important. We are the cogs. We the ones who, especially right now with COVID, we're all having to work from home.
Right.
So I'm working from home and just making sure everything keeps rolling. So I do that during the day, and then also I've just recently joined a cult, Pilates, and I do. If I'm not here, I'm usually at Pilates working out because I just love it. You've got to move your body, especially now that I'm either working at my day job or I'm working at this. My desk is like separated to day job and to my creative stuff. I have to move, so Pilates has become almost my second home. That's pretty much it. Yeah, it has to be what I really spend most of my time on when I'm not writing or reading is Pilates. Wow. Which is great. I'm a huge, don't even get me started. No, like I said, it's a cult.
It's a cult.
It is a cult. It's a cult. So yeah, it's great.
Yeah. Does it help you get in shape, lose weight, and all the good stuff?
I'm 55 years old. I've got to work on keeping this meat prison, up. Because if I don't, I'm just going to fall apart. So yes, Pilates is great for that because one, it's great rehab work and the people there, the community, so uplifting, and no one gives you any if you can't do it. And the trainers are wonderful. It's basically my big thing I do for myself is Pilates. And I think I'm always on my writer friends of you've got to work out. I know that sitting here and doing this is great, but you don't take care of your body.
Yeah,
this is your meat prison. You're stuck in this until you die. So take care of your body, and then you can think better. I'm much more creative. Because if I'm not working out, the depression, I have a problem with depression. Who doesn't? All writers are nuts.
Endorphins, they really help you. Happy people.
Happy people. And I'm much more creative, much more productive if I'm not depressed. So mommy needs to keep working out or mommy gets depressed. So
see, I imagine you did something with sports just because of the really strenuous things that you have poor Jake go through.
I'm very lucky in that my husband was a Marine.
Oh, okay.
So a lot of the times when I have like a fight scene, I can work it out with him, especially doing with guns. Anything doing with guns, like in, what is it? One of my stories. Oh yeah, The Problem at Gruff Springs. I have a lot of guns because it's Wild West. It's a weird Western story. And he helps me with the guns. In my Sherlock Holmes story, I have a big fight scene. And I'm using a form of karate that they had at that time called Boritsu. And my husband helped me figure out the best way to do a fight scene. He's great because, again, he's a Marine. He has a lot of experience in fighting, a lot of experience with firearms. So he keeps me like I like to root all of my stories, no matter how fantastical, in some kind of reality. Because for me, I need that hook in reality. And he's really great. He helps me a lot.
No, it was really, the part I liked about it was you did keep some reality in there. I mean, some weird things happened, and there were really some gross
really
things
weird
in there.
Yeah.
Like, did she really write this? Because, you look at your picture and you're like, oh.
She looks so nice.
Yeah. I'm like, she looks nice. Maybe, I don't know what happened.
Yeah. It's us quiet ones you got to watch out for. We're the ones sitting around thinking about how to kill people all the time. So.
Yeah. You are scary. You're cute.
I'm a little scary. Sorry. Yeah.
So the pirate Pierre
Rameau.
Mm-hmm. So how did you come upon this story? Is it something you heard when you were just visiting?
Actually, no. I do a lot of reading. I read a lot, especially research. And I have a book about different things I have it on my shelf over there, in South Carolina and in New Orleans, all doing that. And I happened to come across the Honey Island monster that dealt with the pirate. And that I just went down this rabbit hole. And I ended up finding out more about the pirate and this place. Honey Island, which they think there's a monster there. Now, most probably in reality, it's people trying to protect their stills and they've created this monster so people don't go there. But then they added the whole pirate because pirates used New Orleans a lot because it's a port city to hide a lot of their treasures. But basically, it was just one of those weird rabbit holes. It's like same thing with my Sherlock Holmes story. I was looking through a book about weird stuff about England, and I found this thing called the Shrieking Pit. Supposedly, there's this pit in Norfolk they claim is where pagans used to kill their sacrifices, and now you can still hear the screams of the sacrifices at night. And I was like, that's cool. And then I got the contract to write the Sherlock Holmes story, and I said, I'm using this. I don't know how I'm going to use it, but it's going to be in the story. It's just weird, just little things that I just find. And it's kind of come to me, or I'm just reading and I just go down a rabbit hole. I attract weirdness. So maybe that's what it is. I'm just a weirdo magnet.
Righto. Well, you twisted into the story in such a unique and creative way. They were sincerely enjoyable to read.
I'm glad.
So what advice do you give writers in finding the genre or being able to pop through genres as you do?
I'm one of the founding members of the National Writers Group, and I've taught a lot of and also ran a lot of critique groups. And a lot of the newbies, people who are just now giving themselves permission to create. And I tell them, just play with whatever you want. What do you like to read? Truly, if you want to read it, you will write it. And just play. This is a sandbox. Just have fun. And again, what you like to read is what you'll like to write. I've written a lot of stories that I was really glad to be done with because they were just very dark, and you don't want to be in that place for so long. In fact, that's always the advice I give to very young writers or people who just started doing this, because many of these young writers are not young, not chronologically. They've just given themselves now time and permission to create. Just play. What do you want to say? What story do you want to give out? It's really not that hard because people are creative. It's what we are. We're all the otters of the universe. We love to play and just make things and just have a good time. That's what I always tell people. Have a good time.
That's definitely great advice. Thank you so much for sharing how you came up with such a unique tale.
You're welcome.
Oh, I mean, it's just the names, everything that goes on, and definitely going with unique and
Thank
fun
you
to
very
read.
much. Thank you. Great.
Okay, until next time, keep asking questions. And if you want some great books to read that are really a little twisted, but will keep you tuned in until the very last page, Nikki Nelson-Hicks. I suspect that any book she's written will be enjoyable. We'll see you soon.